Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, November 27th through Sunday, December 3rd, 2023. This week we are cruising into Sagittarius season. We've got those holiday vibes, festive vibes, right? As the temperatures are going down, our enthusiasm is going up. That's what Sagittarius season is all about. You can see I've got my holiday sweater on as a part of that, I guess. I don't know. We're really going to feel that, boost of energy go up even further at the start of this week because we've got a Gemini full moon. It's happening at 4 degrees Gemini. We'll talk about what that means, but generally this is a really fun, very active full moon. I guess any full moon would be very active and potentially fun, but especially one in Gemini. The full moon will be at 4 degrees Gemini, opposing the sun at 4 degrees Sagittarius. And so it's highlighting that Sagittarius Gemini axis, which has everything to do with a lot of things, really. There's a wide range because this is a mutable axis, but it has to do with learning and expansion, growth, as well as a bit of self-expression as well. So very active time. We'll talk more specifically about what that means. This full moon won't really aspect a whole lot. It does kind of make a loose T-square with Saturn, so we'll talk about what that means. But other than that, it's kind of just a casual full moon. Definitely a more active full moon than normal, but not nearly as intense as what we experienced the past couple months with, eclipse season and all that. So in my opinion, it's kind of refreshing to have a somewhat normal full moon, if a full moon can be normal, that is. That's really the main event for this week. Other than that, Mercury will be changing signs, leaving Sagittarius and entering Capricorn already, which is crazy. In case you don't remember, Mercury is in the pre-shadow, so it's traveling very quickly right now. So there's a lot of new information. We're in uncharted territory as far as the mental energy, the communication, and we may be just generally more busy than normal as well, with Mercury cruising through, multiple degrees every day. But like I touched on, Mercury is in the pre-shadow, so just keep that in mind. I know everyone gets really excited and freaked out about Mercury retrograde, so just in case you were wondering, Mercury will turn retrograde December 13th at 8 degrees Capricorn, and eventually Mercury will go back into Sagittarius on December 23rd. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, Mercury is just cruising along, entering Capricorn, so it's showing maybe more of a focus on the far future, planning, all that kind of stuff comes up when we have planets in Capricorn. So we'll talk about what all that means and more as we get through this day-by-day forecast here. And at this part of the forecast, I usually advertise myself in some kind of way, but honestly, I just don't really feel like doing that, so I'm not going to. But yeah, if you wanted a reading, you know how to hit me up. All that good stuff, right? Okay, but let's get all that out of the way. Let's just go forward into the day-by-day forecast here. So starting out Monday, November 27th, I keep switching between November and December. It's very confusing when we've got a week that is kind of split in the middle with each month. But anyway, November 27th, we start out the week with that full moon, which I actually really like. Lately we've had full moons and quarter moons, new moons right at the beginning of the month, beginning of the week. So I think that's exciting. It's kind of a way to just, dive into the deep end, so to speak, into the week, and let's get all this activity out of the way right at the front, right? So yeah, as you can see, Monday, November 27th, full moon at 4 degrees Gemini, opposing the sun at 4 degrees Sagittarius. Just like I described in the intro, this is very active and fun. Think about what Gemini and Sagittarius have in common. Both are mutable signs, both are yang signs, so they are air and fire, right? They represent the more active phases of consciousness. So this is kind of what we're all experiencing in our own way. We are a bit more, more willing to be adventurous and optimistic. Let's try something new. Let's try this. Let's try that. This could be a very sociable full moon, so kind of like party energy, so to speak, more active in general. Gemini and Sagittarius represent learning. They represent, us being a little bit more fluid and adaptable and maybe open to trying something new, going on an adventure, learning a new concept, etc. So that's generally the focus. We're channeling in that Gemini energy, which is very youthful, very playful, very experimental, right? So right now, emotionally, we're kind of adaptable. We're willing to tolerate some level of variety and diversity with our experience right now. So potentially very exciting. If you are maybe like a fixed sign or a certain like water or earth sign, this may be a little bit less comfortable for you because you would prefer more stability, right? This is not the best dynamic for stability. So just, I would say my only advice would be look to Gemini, look to Sagittarius. What do? They tend to be a little bit detached And that detachedness is what allows them to be so adaptable and to, get out of their comfort zone, so to speak. Their comfort zone is in getting out of their comfort zone, kind of. So you can look to them on how to embrace this type of energy. Also, like I talked about in the intro, this full moon really doesn't aspect a whole lot. Obviously, the moon is opposing the sun. That's what a full moon is. I couldn't see any other aspects other than a loose T-square with Saturn. So if that sounds intimidating or intense, it kind of is. Remember, it's not exact, so it's not going to be like completely dominating the energy of this full moon. But it is there. It is relevant. So how do I put this? It's difficult because it's kind of contradictory in nature. Typically, this full moon would be all about, like I said, trying something new, branching out, learning something, adventuring. But when we involve Saturn, it's kind of the opposite. It's sort of representing, yes, go out and explore, but keep in mind, what are your limitations? I think this full moon is really testing our boundaries, so to speak. That's often what happens with Gemini and Sagittarius energies. They don't really understand boundaries. They want to just like push the boundaries and just explore and go farther and farther, right? But again, Saturn is sort of involved. It's kind of like this shadowy figure in the background of this full moon. So Saturn is there to say, okay, yeah, explore, go out, have fun, but keep in mind, like, what are your limitations? We all have limitations with money, time, energy, right? So I don't know. It's a mixed bag, and I'm not sure exactly how to put it, but that's the best way I can sum it up. That we are exploring and pushing the boundaries, but maybe that's what we need to do in order to see where the boundaries are, right? That's generally the kind of focus there. Specifically, Saturn is in Pisces, so it's more having to do with what are your boundaries spiritually, mentally, emotionally. These are kind of non-physical boundaries, so they're not as literal as just like time or money. They're more kind of, I don't know, spiritual in nature. So take that for what you will, but that's generally kind of the focus with that full moon. Also today, Mercury will be squaring Neptune. So Mercury at 24 degrees Sagittarius squaring Neptune at 24 degrees Pisces. These are definitely not involved with the full moon by aspect or by degree, but this aspect is involved just because it's happening around the same time as the full moon. So what this means is, how do I put this? Mercury squaring Neptune. So there's a connection between, the mental energy, the learning, the communication represented by Mercury. There's a connection between that and spirituality. In many ways, Neptune represents kind of the opposite of Mercury. Mercury's all about quantifying things and, learning objectively true information. And Neptune says, screw all that. Let's just be fluid and adaptable. There's truth in everything. Everyone has their truth, even if it may appear objectively wrong. No, let's just go with it anyway. There's truth in everything, right? That's more what Neptune represents. It's all about dissolving the boundaries. So, and keep in mind also, Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius. Mercury's not really feeling himself. He's a bit exiled. He's in unfamiliar territory. So with Mercury squaring Neptune, how do I put this? Like, we may be learning information that is really testing the whole nature of our current beliefs. Like, this is really great energy for just that, like learning new information that may be testing our current beliefs. We may have to change, something having to do with our opinions, our worldviews. Those may be tested right now. We're being kind of confronted with different information that may appear untrue, but then at the same time, it's more complicated than that. This could also be a great time for having intuitive flashes, psychic downloads, psychic experiences. With Neptune, I always describe it like it can do both. It can do either. There's this potential for delusion and confusion, but then there's also potential for enlightenment and clarity as well. And oftentimes when you're going through it, it's hard to tell which one you're experiencing. You may think that you're experiencing clarity when actually you are confused, or vice versa. With Neptune, there's no making sense of it. There's no rhyme or reason, right? So yes, if it sounds confusing, that's because it is. And keep in mind, again, this is happening at the same time as the full moon. So in a way, this is kind of just chaos. We're really involving not just Gemini and Sagittarius, but also Pisces. So 3 mutable signs. Within each mutable sign is multifaceted on its own. So when you start mixing together multiple mutable signs, it just gets so chaotic. I'm picturing like a sandstorm or something. There's so many moving particles in the air. You can't see what's what. You may be pulled this way, but you're also pulled that way, and it's indecisive, it's confusing. But there is a sort of chaotic beauty in just the chaos of it all. Just, how many different things are happening at once. So again, look to what the mutable signs do. Really, all the mutable signs are kind of detached. And again, that's what allows them to be so adaptable and open-minded. So that would be my only advice. Just go with it. It's going to be a weird Monday. You're not really going to know what's happening. There's going to be too much happening at once to really understand it all. So if it feels out of control, it kind of is, but just go with it, roll with the punches. That's all I can say. That's all we can do because the astrology is larger than ourselves. Okay, going forward to Tuesday, November 28th, we don't have any major planetary aspects, but the moon continues through Gemini, so it's kind of drawing out that full moon energy. The moon is no longer technically full, but it's kind of seeping into Tuesday, if that makes sense. I think the confusion and the chaos won't be as acute on Tuesday. The drama won't be as acute, but again, it's kind of spilling over into Tuesday. I think that's a good way to put it. There are a couple aspects today. So the moon will oppose, how do I put this? Well, first, the moon will trine Venus. You can see that here right around noon Eastern Standard Time. This is actually really beautiful. So moon and Venus are in harmony. They're making this really nice aspect. This is even more true because Venus is in domicile in Libra. So she's very comfortable, very strong in her position. And moon is pretty strong in Gemini as well. I would say moon is in joy in Gemini. Gemini moon is a fun transit to experience. So as they make this connection, both are in good spirits, so to speak, and both are agreeing with one another. So in other words, the emotional energy as well as the energy of the pleasure and the desire represented by moon and Venus, they're both in air signs. So it shows that emotionally and what we value, what we find pleasurable, it's all focused on information. It's very mental. It's focused on information, learning. We're also kind of desiring to be social at this time. We may be more interested in other people right now. So this could be a really great time for having great conversations, whether that be casual conversations with people you don't know well, or maybe a deep conversation with someone that you do have, very strong rapport with. Either way, all of that is supported by these types of energies. And then again, much later in the day, moon will oppose Mercury. So again, it's kind of highlighting that Sagittarius Gemini axis. This also can be very social in nature. It's all about branching out, learning something new, maybe entertaining a different point of view that you wouldn't normally think of, or, a point of view that is different than your own. It's all, it's generally very focused on fire and air signs right now. So again, branching out, trying something new, being spontaneous. That's definitely the name of the game for this whole first part of the week here. Wednesday, November 29th, we continue on. Moon will enter Cancer very early in the day, Eastern Standard Time. So again, the focus changes. I do think this can be a relief because it just means that we're stepping away from that full moon energy of Monday and kind of Tuesday. Moon is now in a completely different sign. Its dynamic with the sun completely changes as well. So we are, moving away from that energy. The energy is kind of dissipating a little bit. And there's also more of a mix now with, sun is in Sagittarius, moon is in Cancer. These energies are very different. Venus in Libra, etc. It's more of a mixed bag right now. Okay, and I wanted to talk about Venus is passing the South Node today. I think that's not right. November 29th. My notes say 5 degrees. That's not right, though. So I'm sorry, I should have looked over that. But Venus has just recently crossed over the South Node, however you want to put it. So this is kind of interesting. This means that it's very technical, so I don't want to get into what it physically means in space. I can in a different video if you really want me to. But the South Node kind of represents where planets move into the underworld, so to speak, where they cross the plane of our solar system in a kind of downward motion, so to speak. Or I believe technically you would say it's south. There is a south in space. Again, it's very technical, but But anyway, so on a more abstract level, Venus is crossing over that point of like going into the underworld, so to speak. So it brings about really dark themes. This is unusual because Venus is in Libra. So typically it's all about pleasure, desire, let's have good conversations, right? However, there is kind of a dark side of Venus, right? And I think that's coming out right now. So Venus in Libra can be very manipulative. We may be all sunshine and rainbows, but then we can use that to kind of cover up certain ulterior motives, right? Again, Venus, you can look to like Venus or Aphrodite in mythology. She was very beautiful, but she was also very cunning, and she would use her beauty and her charm to get away with what she wanted to get away with. She could outsmart, the smartest man, or I forget how it goes exactly. So I think those themes are coming up right now. You can use that to your advantage, but maybe just also be aware, I guess. Not saying to be paranoid by any means, but these are just generally the themes that come up. There could also be themes involving the dark side of pleasure, the dark side of desire. So what do you want? Is what you want truly in your own best interest? Is getting what you want going to help other people, or will it be to the detriment of other people? Will it be to the detriment of yourself even? These are the themes that can kind of come up with this placement. It's definitely subtle. It's not something that's going to dominate the whole day, but it is kind of interesting on an astrological level. Thursday, November 30th, Moon continues through Cancer. Remember, with Moon in Cancer on Wednesday and Thursday, Moon is in domicile. So we are very much feeling our emotions right now. We're very sure of ourselves emotionally. We feel very strongly right now. And I think this is backed up by Sun and Sagittarius as well. Although Sun and Sagittarius and Moon in Cancer are two very different placements, both are very passionate and kind of emotional in nature. They're a bit subjective. So that's generally the focus. We may be very passionate right now. For Thursday, I actually wrote down no aspects. I usually find some kind of aspect to talk about, but honestly, there is a lack of aspects, and I think that actually really sums up what's going on today more than anything. When you have such a wide array of energies, you can even see that in the chart here, how all the planets are kind of scattered, generally speaking, right? So that shows that, there's many different things going on. The focus isn't dramatically on this or that issue. It's kind of all over the place, right? And each of us is going to experience that in our own way. So I hope I can convey that to you. It's just kind of a mix, kind of a blend. On the one hand, this could mean that Thursday is a bit well-rounded. It's not really intense in nature for the vast majority of us, right? So I think that can be very good. It definitely makes things more unclear though, right? Because there's no super intense clear focus for today. It's kind of a casual day, and I say that very cautiously, but that's what I would interpret the astrology as for Thursday. Friday, December 1st, Moon will leave Cancer and enter Leo about halfway through the day, Eastern Standard Time. I think this is really beautiful because Moon is now stepping into, it's approaching a trine to the Sun now. Sun is in Sagittarius. Moon is now in Leo. These are both fire signs. So both of these luminaries are supporting us in being fiery, a bit egocentric, maybe very passionate, kind of sure of ourselves, confident, right? That's what the fire signs are all about. Also being adventurous and being spontaneous, right? Fire signs are very exciting. They're not so much based on like what's best in the long run. They're more about what's the most exciting and the most fun right now. These are almost kind of childlike energies, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just generally the focus for Friday. I think it's a really good dynamic for Friday, honestly, especially, for December 1st. Many people are excited for Christmas. I always use that as an example astrologically, but even if you don't celebrate Christmas, I'm sure there's something else to be excited about, especially on a Friday, especially this time of year. It's all about just, being merry and, enjoying yourself. That's really the focus right now. That's the best way I can put it. Other than that, Mercury will leave Sagittarius today and enter Capricorn. So that just means that the mental focus, the communication, the busyness, that is shifting. So while most of the energies are focused on let's have fun, let's delve into these fire astrological themes of living in the moment, Mercury's kind of doing the opposite. Mercury's going to Capricorn saying, let's plan for the future, let's get serious, let's think about our goals. These will just generally, kind of come to the forefront, mentally speaking, moving forward. And we may be learning or communicating about these goals and long-term plans more so going forward from December 1st as well. All right, for Saturday, December 2nd, moon continues through Leo, and we will actually get that exact trine between the sun at 10 degrees Sagittarius. And looks like late in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, moon will cross over 10 degrees Leo, where it will trine the sun. This is really exciting, really fun, especially in fire signs, having that trine energy between the moon and the sun. This puts us in our best shot at being in a collective good mood. Of course, each of us will experience fire energy differently, but generally speaking, you can't go wrong with the trine between the moon and the sun. This is the easiest, the strongest and most harmonious type of aspect that we've got in astrology. So again, a lot of fun, especially if you can tap into those fiery themes of being spontaneous, living in the moment, expressing yourself in kind of a raw and unfiltered way. That's what the fire energies are all about. Also for Saturday, Mercury will sextile Saturn. So Mercury at 1 degree Capricorn, sextiling Saturn at 1 degree Pisces. This is probably the best aspect I could possibly think of for thinking about and potentially changing your goals. Because not only is, Mercury's in Capricorn, we talked about that, where we're just naturally more focused on our long-term goals and maybe learning about those goals, changing those goals. But now as we bring in the sextile with Saturn is, well, for one, Saturn is the best planet for really thinking about long-term ramifications, consequences, how to support yourself in the long run. It's all about being mature and wise. But specifically with Saturn in Pisces, this is about, what's truly the most mature and wise decision on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, right? It's about, the greater good and, not just what's best for ourselves, but what's best for, the world, society, what's best for us on an emotional level. And again, this is a sextile. Sextiles are harmonious aspects. So when you all kind of bring it all together and boil it down, it's just a really great aspect for thinking about those long-term goals. What do you truly want in the future? What will truly make you the most satisfied? Not just satisfied on a kind of basic level, like money, status, power, whatever. What's truly going to make you happy on a really deep level, right? That's what we may be all more aware of on Saturday. What else? And I wrote loose grand trine. Oh yeah, so there's going to be a loose grand trine between sun and moon. We've got that exact trine in the morning. We talked about that. But we've also got this kind of loose grand trine between sun, moon, and Chiron. So sun is at 10 degrees Sagittarius. Moon will be transiting these middle degrees of Leo throughout the day. And then Chiron is at 15 degrees Aries. So not only are we being really spontaneous and living in the moment, but we're also channeling in this, this grand trine is pointed toward Chiron. So it's bringing in that Chiron energy of, on the one hand, expressing our own personal wounds and traumas, demanding that greater respect, demanding justice, etc., etc. But we may also be more aware of the plight of others as well. Even just talking about it almost makes me uncomfortable because this stuff is very sensitive in nature, right? This is where people can get triggered, people can get offended. But a grand trine, it's 3 trines. It's very harmonious, very strong in nature. So we may all be kind of receptive to this. We may be able to communicate these very sensitive topics in a way that is truly productive. So that could be exciting. I still feel like it could also be uncomfortable though. Chiron's a weirdo. Chiron's a weird energy. I'm just going to leave it at that and I'm going to move forward. Sunday, December 3rd, moon continues through Leo. Moon is no longer exactly trining the sun by aspect, but we've still got sun in Sagittarius, moon in Leo. They're close to trining. They trine by sign. So again, it's a lot of fire energy. Let's have fun in the moment. Let's adventure. Let's be optimistic, etc., etc., etc. This is even strengthened by what is called a minor grand trine that kind of develops today. It's also called a small talent trine. I don't like that term as much. I think that sounds very technical. I think minor grand trine sounds more fun and it kind of encapsulates the meaning of it. I'll explain what the heck am I talking about. So basically it's 2 sextiles and a trine. And it gets even more complicated because part of it is an out of sign sextile. So in other words, Moon is really the one triggering this, but it's involving Mercury and Venus as well. Mercury is at the very beginning of Capricorn. Venus is at the very end of Libra, so they have an out of sign sextile. So in other words, like they're not sextiling by sign, but by aspect, they are having this harmonious dynamic, right? And then Moon, as it approaches the end of Leo, forms an out of sign trine with Mercury. I'm going to explain what all this means. I know it sounds very technical. Moon makes an out of sign trine with Mercury, and then Moon also sextiles Venus. So Mercury sextiling Venus, Venus sextiling Moon, and Moon trining Mercury, all pretty much at the same time. This is not exact, it is a bit loose, but it's a very rare aspect in astrology, and I thought it was interesting to talk about. So remember what I've said up to this point. Sextiles are harmonious. Trines are even more harmonious. These are the easy aspects in astrology. And when you involve, multiple sextiles with the trine at the same time, it's very harmonious, very, very easy, very sweet, right? And let's keep in mind what the characters are that we're involving here. So Mercury and Venus, whenever you combine those, especially in a sextile like this, they make really great conversational energy. We're wanting to communicate and learn about each other, but in a way that is pleasurable or charismatic. Mercury plus Venus, basically. And then now we're also mixing in the moon, which is the emotional focus. It's also the short-term focus, right? So when you add it all together, these energies are really supporting us in, let's have fun, let's communicate, let's learn about each other. This is great party energy. If you wanted to do something fun this weekend, really Saturday or Sunday would be a great day for it. I almost would more point to Saturday because of that grand trine, between that trine of the sun and the moon. But Sunday as well looks really great, especially with this minor grand trine. Either way, the whole weekend looks great for, enjoying yourself. I definitely think this would lean towards something more active or more social in nature, but it's all about what you personally want. That's what the fire signs bring up. What do you want individually? If that is maybe something not so involving other people, then go with that. It's whatever you want. But again, generally, I think this is more of a, let's have fun. Let's be creative together. Venus and Libra shows that we're really valuing our relationships and socializing right now. And adding these fire signs makes us very expressive. So when you add it all together, it can create a lot of fun for, again, like party energy or socializing. All right. And that's pretty much what I have for you for this week. So honestly, it looks like a fun week. Of course, that will affect each of us differently depending on how these things land in our charts. But generally speaking, I think it looks like a lot of fun for everyone. I think this looks like a break. I hope I'm not just applying what I want. I do the best I can to be objective. But I really think this could be, us getting away from the intensity of the eclipse season. I really think that intensity kind of lingered on even weeks after the actual eclipse season. So I think this could be a really great time for like bringing in some new energy, moving forward. That's what the fire signs are all about. Even the full moon at the start of the week in Gemini is all about, culmination and exploring and, let's move on to the next thing. That's what yang signs in general tend to do for us. So I think this is really great. It looks like a lot of fun. Definitely tune in next week. We've got Venus changing signs, moving into Scorpio, where it will be in detriment. So bring in some kind of spooky vibes. We'll talk about what that means. We've got a third quarter moon in Virgo, and Neptune turns direct at 24 degrees Pisces. So kind of a mixed bag, but we'll talk about all that next week. But thank you for watching. I hope you have an excellent week, and I'll see you later.